Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the last archetype from Amazing Defenders, Mikanko. Now this particular archetype took me a little bit of a while to create because I had my own personal things, but I still thought it will be really fun to talk about. It might actually be the longest video of the three. Don't quote me on that because it might end up being a little bit more shorter, but we will see. Now, Mikanko is the ritual equip archetype that came out actually in Amazing Defenders. I'm kind of just used for the fact that I'm doing these before, but like I mentioned before, I didn't really have the time, and I actually want to talk about them today because I think they're really interesting. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps a ton. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Mikanko. Give a like to the video if you enjoyed. And now, let's jump right into the video itself. So first and foremost, the Mikanko mechanics. As we always do this in every type of my breakdowns, let's talk about what Mikanko do. So as I mentioned before, pretty quickly, Mikankos are equip/ritual archetype that also have some effects in the battle. They basically works with equip spells as their main thing, and all the Mikanko monsters, at least the main deck ones, shares the following effect: that if this card is not equipped with an equip card, you take no damage from battles involving this card. And if they are equipped with an equip card, this card cannot be destroyed by battle, and your opponent take any damage you would have taken instead with battle involving this card. So basically, they also have some kind of like a weird kind of suicide battle effects, which are interesting and cool, but they're not like their main thing. Like I mentioned before, they also work with rituals, and they also have some kind of weird idea with equip cards, so that is pretty much what they do. And now with that out of the way, pretty simple mechanics, now we'll actually jump into the monsters. So first and foremost, we're going to start with the two monsters that we have in the main deck specifically that are not the ritual monster. Currently, we're going to get another one in Sayo, but for now, the one that we have are Hari, the Sword of the Mikanko, and Nini, the Mirror of Mikanko. I don't know why I added Mirror of Mikanko in Sword of Mikanko, but that's kind of why my head is used from the OCG names. But regardless, both of these cards have the following effect: that if they're become equipped with an equip card, they do something. In the case of Hare, she search for your Mikanko equip spell from your deck to your hand, and in the case of Nini, she able to target one face-up card your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase as a quick effect when she become equipped with an equip card. So I'm going to give Nini 3 stars, very good effect. Mostly you don't really use her on the field, even though stealing another monster, yes, they also have their own snatch steal in the archetype, is actually really good. Sometimes you don't really like to leave this monster with not protected, but it's still a very good card. In the case of Hare, actually, she's an excellent card because she's also able to kind of like start your engine going, and she also just becomes a really good extender, because if you're able to get into her and you search the particular needed card, you are able to maybe summon a Nini directly from your deck and essentially just, you know, get your engine going as an overall. So I think this card is very good. In the case of Hare going to get 4. In the case of Nini, she's going to get a 3. Very good cards as an overall, but not really something that like the entire archetype is built on specifically, because the archetype specifically built around Ohime, the manifested Mikanko, which is the ritual monster, and this ritual monster can be summoned with ritual summoned with the Mikanko Kagura, and cannot be destroyed by battle, and of course has the same effect that your opponent takes any battle damage involving this card. So basically she has the same effect, but she doesn't need an equip spell to basically have both of these protections. So that's kind of like what Ohime have going for her. As for her other two effects, Ohime has the effect that she can reveal herself and then add any Mikanko card from your deck to your hand and then discard a card. And then the other effect is that you can, as a quick effect, to target any equip in your graveyard and equip it to an appropriate monster on the field. That means that you can have her on the field and equip an equip for her, or equip anything to your opponent monster or to any of your other monsters. Ohime going to get 5 stars because she's a light fairy level 6, which works really well with the Ben 10, which we'll talk about it when we talk about Suggestions card. Not to mention the fact that she's also a searcher by herself. Ohime is a very excellent card, so that's why Ohime is going to get a 5 stars in my opinion. Now we're actually done with the Mikanko monsters for now, because that's the only number of monsters that we have. We have currently in this support only 3. We are, like I mentioned before, getting in Cyberstorm Axe is another one, but that's for later. For now, let's talk about the ritual spell. And the ritual spell is called Heavenly Gate of the Mikanko. We also actually going to throw here also the Great Mikanko Ceremony and the also the Ritual spell, just in order to just cover all of these together before we'll jump into the Equip spell. So first and foremost, the Field spell. The field spell getting for me 1 star. This particular equip spell is just really fun for, you know, battle related stuff, but it's not really that good. It does have some particular effect that, like, you know, make your opponent have to attack your equipped monsters, and also just if your Mikanko monster attacks, you can send an equip to attack in a row. It's really cute, but it's not good. Let's just say that I don't really want to kind of extend on this card, because this card is maybe a one-off if you really want to be cute about it, but by itself, it's actually, in my opinion, not that good. It might have some kind of like weird OTK potential, but for the most part, it's just okay. The actual card star of the show is actually the Great Mikanko Ceremony, which is going to get for me 5 stars, and the Ritual itself going to get a 3. The reason why the Great Mikanko Ceremony is a 5 stars because the Great Mikanko Ceremony is basically the true ritual spell for this archetype, because, and I'm going to mention this right now, because it's allowing you to summon any Mikanko monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning condition, but return to your hand during your opponent's end phase, which is fine. But the thing that is really important about this card, it's also a foolish burial for any Mikanko card that you need, because you can use it during the main phase to banish any card, or you can banish this card to the graveyard and send any Mikanko card from your deck to the graveyard except another copy of itself. So this card is absolutely excellent, giving you the ability to summon Ohime with a greater ease without any requirements, and then send any equip she wants to the graveyard to then just trigger her effects. So the Great Mikanko Ceremony is absolutely excellent. As for the Ritual itself, is actually fine. It's just a generic ritual spell with the additional benefit that you can destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of equipped cards in different names in your graveyard and inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each card destroyed. So it's fine. It's a nice, again, have kind of OTK potential. You maybe play this as a one-off, unlike the field spell that you don't play at all. But it's mostly just like a nice finish OTK card rather than just being like a really, really good consistency card. And again, it can just be, by itself, it's just a normal ritual spell that if you're not able to destroy anything, is not really anything particular, but it's still a very, very fun card. Now we're actually going to talk about the equip spells, which we have 4 of them currently in the TCG, which is Fire Dance, Purification Dance, Water, whatever his name is, because I'm not going to pronounce this card, and Reflection Rondo. All of these 4 cards are your equip spells, and these are the cards that you actually just want to send to the graveyard or search with a Hare. I believe that's her name. Yeah, Hare. So, what do these cards do? Well, first off, we have Fire Dance, allowing you to special summon any Mikanko monster, either from your hand or graveyard, and equip it with this card, and then you can special summon 1 monster from your opponent graveyard to their field. You can. You don't have to. It just says you can. It's for OTK potentials, it's pretty good, but you don't have to. And that's kind of what it does. It's kind of like an interesting Wolf Bark / Monster Reborn, so that card is really good. And because of Purification Dance, if your opponent special summon a monster, you're able to basically, or should I say, if any monster is special summoned to your opponent field, you're able to basically target 1 monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls and return them to the hand. So it's supposed to work technically with Fire Dance, so you summon something to your opponent field and then you bounce your opponent monster and one of your monsters back to the hand, which is interesting idea, but I definitely think Purification Dance is not really something that you want to try to go with Fire Dance, but it's an interesting kind of idea for the archetype as an overall. As for the water side of things, we have the water weird Arab thing that I'm not going to try to pronounce more. Arab Squace, whatever. This particular card is a very, very good card because if you have a Mikanko monster equipped with, or should I say, if you have a monster equipped with this card, you're able to use its effect to basically special summon any Mikanko monster from your deck with a different original name than the equipped monster. And then if you do, you equip this card to that monster and you return the card that you have equipped with it to the hand, which is very, very nice. It's just giving you the ability to rotate your monsters around whatever you want to, which is just giving you some nice extensions, specifically, especially with Hare. You can start with Hare this, equip Hare with this as well, then use the effect of that card to, let's say, summon a Nini from your deck, use this particular card to equip it to the Nini, and or your other card, which we'll talk about it, which is from CYAC, and then your Hara returns to your hand and you still have a card equipped, which is pretty good. As for Reflection Rondo, it's just a snatch steal. You equip it to an opponent monster, and if you control a Mikanko monster, you take control of it. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, your opponent monster is also sent to the graveyard. So that's kind of what it does. So what do I think about the Mikanko ritual effects? Or should I say, you know, ritual effects? Mikanko equip spells. Well, in my opinion, Mikanko Purification or Purification Dance is definitely the worst out of the four because it's a really weird kind of just bounce effect, so it's going to get for me a 2. It's not a useless card, but it's not really that good. In case of Fire Dance, it's going to get a 3, Water Arab Square is going to get a 4, and Reflection Rondo is going to get a 3. Reflection Rondo is pretty good, but it's depending on you having a Mikanko monster, which makes sense because it's a snatch steal and should have some kind of like a requirement, but it's also not really the main thing that you're going to go to. As for the water spell, it's actually very good. Being able to summon anything from your deck is actually really powerful, and then just having Monster Reborn / a Wolf Bark is also pretty decent. But that is it for the equip spells. Now we'll talk about the 2 traps that we have in the Archetype, which originally I actually planned to give both of these 1 star because they're not really that good. But now with the support from CYAC, after I seen it, 1 trap is actually going to get from me a 2, and the other one is still going to get a 1. So in my opinion, Mikanko Promise is the worst one, is going to get a 1, and Rivalry is going to get a 2. Promise is just a card that should have been on a spell. An effect should have been a spell because it's allowing you to special summon any Mikanko monster from your hand or deck and then equip it with an equip spell from your hand or graveyard, and you banish that monster when it leaves the field. So basically this is just, in my opinion, an effect that should have been on a spell. But regardless of that, it's okay. It's not useless. It's just, in my opinion, it's just not really that good. However, Mikanko Rivalry is actually a little bit of a better card, is that it says that if you control a Mikanko monster, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, equip it with an equip spell from your deck that can be equipped to it. And if an equip spell is sent to the graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 equip spell in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And this card is actually really good, a lot better than I'm giving credit for. The reason why I'm only giving it a 2 right now is because of the fact that it's not searchable. It's also not really the best thing in the world, but it is a good card to even just use for its effect to maybe giving you Reflection Rondo easily or something specifically that you need if you want to interrupt your opponent during the opponent's turn, or you have a Nini and you want to equip it with something and then take control of the opponent's monsters. That's also pretty good. But this card is a little bit better than a 1 star, even though it's just a trap, because of the support from CYAC, which we'll talk about in a second, and that's why this card is very good. Also, the fact that it's able to just recur an equip spell from the graveyard, just making this card pretty okay. So I think Mikanko Rivalry is a 2 star. It's not an excellent card, but it's still pretty okay. And speaking of the CYAC support, which is related to the trap, we are going to talk about the Fury, the Orb Mikanko, which might not going to be the official name for it, and also the Fascinating Bird, which is also another equipped spell for Mikanko, which is supposed to be connected to your Fury. So, for Fury itself, she has the same effect as all of your Mikanko main deck monsters, but the other effect that you have going for her is that if she becomes equipped with an equipped card, you're able to add a Mikanko trap. And that's why I mentioned Rivalry is actually really good, because you're able to just search the Rivalry with the greater of ease, and Rivalry is actually a decent card. So if you have, like I said, I mentioned a Nini, you are able to equip directly from your deck, you know, a Nini with an equip spell, or if you control any Mikanko monster, you equiply from your deck can equip a Reflection Rondo to your opponent monster and take control of it. And if something is sent to the graveyard, you get the card back, so you're getting another resource. So that's why, in my opinion, Fury is going to get 3 stars. As for her own equip, she's also going to get a 3 star for that. This equip is actually pretty decent, not for its first effect, but its secondary effect, which is allowing you to target basically a Mikanko monster in the graveyard if this card is in the graveyard, and then special summon it, but banish the Mikanko monster when it leaves the field. So you are able to kind of just have another interesting monster reborn that works really well with the Great Mikanko Ceremony. So you have another equipped spell that you might want to send to the graveyard. So I think both of these cards are excellent. They're not like the most amazing thing in the world, but they're definitely excellent. Fascinating Bird also have another effect which works during the damage step, that if a Mikanko monster battle, you can target 1 card on the field and return to the hand, which is interesting, but mostly what I care about is the grave effect. But that does it for the Mikanko stuff. Now we actually can talk about the strength and weaknesses of the archetype, which is another thing to talk about entirely. Now, guess of strength and weaknesses of the archetype, Mikanko is a very interesting archetype with the fact that it's able to be splashed with a greater of ease for a lot more archetypes than I thought initially possible, so that's the great strength going on for it. But I would say it's also a problem for this archetype is that its battle effects not really work that well, and by itself it's actually not really that good. I know that mostly people will say, oh, but archetypes today are just splashed with something else, but if you are planning to play this pure, don't even bother because this archetype is not really good. Board breakers are also really good against this archetype. Equip spells specifically, if you're able to just remove them from the field or negate their effects, they're just not able to do anything because they're specifically really depend on their monster effects to maybe get the equip spells, or if they have the equip spells, just being able to just get rid of them immediately, just like stop their entire plays when it comes to their interruptions or anything. Also, yeah, like I mentioned, they're really splashable, and that's pretty much it. If there's anything that I forgot from the top of my head, it should appear on screen, so you're more than welcome to read it specifically. But now, let's move into what good cards are good with Mikanko. I think some of you will specifically know what cards are good in this because it's been a little bit since the archetype been out, but let's mention these anyway. We have the Libromancer package, we have Benton, and we have Illusion of Chaos as really good cards for this deck. Libromancer just works really well with Mikanko because of the fact that Libromancers need an additional good ritual monster, and Mikanko just really works well with Libromancers potentially as a mechanic as well. We have Cyber Angel Benton, which is just a really good card to search Ohime, and then we have Illusion of Chaos, which is an excellent card to just search Magician's Souls, which then allowing you to send your not useful equip spells from your hand to the graveyard and then draw 2 cards, which is very good. Now, for additional cards that are good with this archetype, we have Preparation of Rites, which is obvious. We have Divine of the Herald, which is also obvious. We have Infernal Knight Reynold, which is really good because of its equipped spell potential, and also Infernal Knight potential with Isolde. Again, very good cards. And we also have Fire Infernal Arms Durendal because it's an excellent card to search your Fire Warrior monsters as well. So this is also a very good card. You don't really use it for its secondary effect, but it's very good to just help you search, so that is very good. And lastly, Reinforcement of the Army, just to search your warrior stuff, and Cursed Bamboo Sword to maybe have some weird Bamboo Sword potential with Golden Bamboo Sword and all these particular stuff. But that does it for the cards that are really good with this archetype. Now let's talk about the cards that are just not as good. And the cards that we're going to talk about, or should I say not as good, cards that are good against. This archetype is actually quite interesting when it cards good against because it's really hard to determine because it depends on the archetype that you're playing it in. But mostly from what I've seen, cards that are really good against it is things like Lightning Storm, to get rid of the entire back row or the monsters as an overall. DD Crow to get rid of the specific equips that are trying to equip from the graveyard to just make your opponent Ohime useless. Dimensional Barrier to reduce the ritual potential. Infinite Impermanence to just negate their monster effects because they're very important for them. Forbidden Droplets to just break boards. And Effect Veiler again to just, negate monster effect. But that's pretty much does it for the cards that are good against, and that does it for the archetype cards as an overall. Now let's move on to the end of the video, and it's a lot shorter than I actually expected it to be. But anyway, Mikanko. What do I think about them? Well, Mikanko, in my opinion, kind of have 2 ratings, even though I want to kind of like stick to 1. But the point is, if you're counting them as their own thing by themselves, they're 3 stars. If you count them as additional really good cards that just help support some other archetypes, they're maybe 3.5. So I'm going to stick with 3 stars because that's, in my opinion, what just works for them specifically. They're not absolutely like crazy. They're very good, don't get me wrong, but they're not like absolutely like insane. They're definitely a really interesting ritual decks running around with Mikanko, which I think are really cool, and people really like them, which I also kind of like the idea of what they're bringing out to the game and the new breath of fresh air in this format, which is very necessary. But as an overall, like I mentioned, they're just okay. They works really well with Libromancer currently, with specifically the Ritual Monster, the Great Ceremony, and the Snatch Steal specifically. There are some particular other cards that can work as outwires here and there, but mostly that they work in Libromancer. And in, let's say, Phantom Knights, you take the Fire Warrior engine with Hare and essentially use her to just kind of use as an extender there, because she's a level 3 Fire Warrior monster, which works really well with Phantom Knights. But yeah, that's pretty much my thought about the archetype. Very cool, very awesome, casual, rogue, and tier 2 potential. Or should I say tier 1.5 potential, I guess. So this deck is an overall really cool as an archetype. I cannot wait to see what they will get in the future, but for now, they're pretty good and very, very fun. Unfortunately, they're becoming a little bit more expensive than I wanted them to be, because this set of Amazing Defenders is a little bit better than people give it potential. Or should I say, give it not potential, but give it credit for. But that does it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something about Mikanko, even though this video came a little bit late. See you in the next video, which will be for the archetype review or breakdowns will be the Trap Tricks structure deck, which I'm hoping I will bring it in time. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.